Hey, it's Heidi with Broadmeadow Farm, and I thought I would quickly take you on a tour of our yard before any of that white stuff comes down. It's been really quite a while since I shared an update, and a lot has happened over the yard. If you look behind me, we actually have a really nice deer fence. It was really pushed forward because the deer were starting to eat all of my strawberry plants. They chewed off quite a few plants, and they'd even started to chew on my new apple tree. And I figured if I left it go until spring, I wouldn't have much of a tree left, and they probably would eat all of the strawberries. So let's take a look at what we've done here. Getting a little windy out here, and I just wanted to share with you a little bit of what we did in front of the vegetable garden. So behind me here completely is a beautiful perennial bed. I've got lots of things in there that I hope to share with you next spring. Ideally, if we had the finances, it would be amazing to completely fence the entire 3 acres off for deer. But at this point, that's just a little bit cost prohibitive. So fingers crossed, most of these perennials behind me, I haven't had any issue with the deer munching on them. So I'm hoping that it's enough, especially having a dog that's outside during the summer months, that will keep those deer out of the plants. So we ended up going with a plastic mesh instead of your traditional wire. I liked it better because it tended to blend into the scenery, and especially when we're in the house, you actually don't see it a whole lot. It kind of disappears, whereas with that wire fence, it's definitely visible. It's really heavy. It was really easy for Arlen and I to manage on our own. I had him build me this really beautiful fence here. We're still working on trying to figure out a good closer, because this here, in the wind, it tends to open a little bit and then it swings open. So for right now, we're just using this tarp strap to hold it closed. So the gates open out. I had a nice double opening because I want to be able to haul wheelbarrows in and out of here. We do have a back gate, which isn't built yet. It's just held closed with some of the plastic mesh. But when you come in here, you can see we've got quite a bit going on. Over here on this side, I've made 2 raised beds, and I put all of my asparagus in the one end. But let's see what the deer have done at the end of the strawberries from before we put up the fence. So deer love to chew pretty much everything, and if you look here, they chewed back probably a good 6, maybe 8 feet. And on this row here, they did almost down to nothing. So back here, between this pole and the one behind us, will be a really big swinging gate that we'll build next year. And that'll allow the garden tractor to come in and do any kind of rototilling that we need to do. So for right now, I've just taken a piece of that plastic mesh and I've just zip tied it onto the post, and here we've got it hooked on a little bit. It's not ideal, but what it's doing is it's keeping all of those deer out of the garden. So behind here, you might be wondering what this big patch of tilled soil is with all of these step-in posts. And this is actually my garlic plot. We ended up planting around 3,000 garlic, I think. I can't remember our total final tally, but all of this here will be our garlic, and that will be available for sale next August. The beauty with garlic is you plant it at the tail end of your growing season now. It's in the ground, and then come spring, all you have to do is start to keep it free of weeds. Well, in the past, I have put either wheat or barley straw over top for mulch. I've been really hesitant because over the last number of years, that's created such a weed problem. So we're still kind of up in the air about what we're going to do to cover this. There is some mushroom compost a couple miles from here, but we haven't figured out if that's kind of the best option for us to put over top. So that is what this whole area is here. So the garden ended up being about 80 feet by, well, maybe 65 feet. It's really a nice sized garden. My hope is that in the future we'll slowly transition to a lot of raised beds, and not super tall raised beds because I don't want them to dry out, but Having it fenced in makes it a lot harder to bring the garden tractor in for rototilling. So that will be kind of the goal, is to work towards having some raised beds, and then I'd like to put bark mulch in between. We have such heavy clay soil here, and what happens is when it rains, it's so gummy and it sticks to the bottom of our shoes, and it makes it really hard to get in and do any weeding or harvesting or picking or anything. So that is my dream, is eventually to get raised beds in here and bark mulch pathways. So one very exciting project we worked on at the tail end of summer was actually getting this greenhouse up. I did share a video that, or maybe it was just a picture on Instagram, that we actually got the greenhouse up. But we worked on the inside, and while it's not completely ready for next spring, it's at least to a point where we can have it just sit now for the winter. This here is the shutter, and that's kind of part of our ventilation system. But let's go in and see what we've got on the inside. Apparently we have a dirt bike on the inside. But over here we've got all of my benches. So this greenhouse is 20 by 48 feet. It's got a insulated layer. It's got 2 layers of plastic, and what's in between there is forced air, and that creates your insulation factor. Now over here we've got a furnace that came with our house when we moved it. We're fingers crossed that it's actually going to work. Then we've got the black pipes are the inflation, and then over here we have the hydrant, which is amazing because you want to have water in your greenhouse. When it's minus 20 outside, I don't want to be hauling water back and forth. And because it's a hydrant, it's not going to cause any problems over the winter freezing, because when you turn the hydrant off, the water goes down below the freezing level. Let's see. So I've got benches, and while I don't know if I will be open for business this coming season, I certainly will be growing some plants for ourselves, and we'll work towards getting this greenhouse up and running for next, maybe probably the 2023 season for sure. So another area that we worked on this late summer and fall is this bed here behind me. And most of what is in here, you can see there's 1, 2, 3 rows, and then there's a string line. So those are all the plants that I had way back behind me where the tree rows were. So those are things like peonies and Asiatic lilies. But this empty space behind, and then maybe you can see back there, there's a whole big tilled area. I am actually working on a future business plan, and I am going to be acquiring and purchasing daylilies, so that's hemerocallis, and I'm going to be building up a collection, and it's going to take probably 2, maybe 3 years till they get to a sizable size that I can start selling. But that is our goal for the next, I guess, 3 to 5 years, is I'm going to be growing a daylily collection, and we will be open for business hopefully in about 3 years. So it takes about that long to get them big enough where I can start dividing them and selling them. So stay tuned. If you follow us that long, that is amazing. But in the future, you'll probably be hearing me talk about daylilies a lot more. So as the growing season comes to an end, we've kind of stopped working on the outside. It was wonderful to be able to get as much planted and growing as we did. We just kind of reached a point in the yard where we were really quite done. And it's been exciting. We're moving forward with some demolition on the inside of the house. So over the next fall and winter months, I'll probably be sharing a little bit about what's going on inside the house. But I thought I'd just share with you what we did this summer and keep you up to date. Thank you so much for following along, and have a great fall, and we'll see you soon. Bye.